Hi everyone.
Hello.
Episode 10.
Wow.
Day 9 of lambing because it's April 9th and our very first lambs were born on April 1st, which was the April Fool's Day. And it was a new mom that had triplets. So we really did think we were fooled because that doesn't really happen very often in our flock. So anyway, but here we are.
I think I have actual bags in dark circles, which
Well, you can't really see them.
Okay, I had extra highlighter and
Oh, okay. I used all my makeup tricks from my ex L'Oreal days.
yeah, it was going really well, and then
Yeah.
we just had a little abandoned baby last night at 10,
Right.
squawking its lungs out, and
Right.
it had to come into bed with me because it was cold and hungry, and we've called him Roger.
Yeah, that's his name.
And he was a very good little patient, but he was really needy. So I've definitely been up most of the night. I think I got a solid 3 hours.
Yeah, and you got peed on.
Several times, but I expected that. That's
Okay.
That's right. If you're gonna have a lamb in your bed, it's just gonna go in your bed. I didn't have any newborn size diapers on hand.
All right, so Roger's back in the barn, and
Yeah.
he's absolutely fine. It's just for some reason his mom liked his brother better than him, and he got kicked out for some reason. I'm not
His
sure.
mom wants nothing to do with him.
No.
Nothing.
It's a bit of a mystery, but
Yeah.
he'll be fine, so nobody needs to worry.
Yeah, we're feeding him, and he will get snuggles from other lambs because they do tend
He's
to
already
actually.
made friends.
Yeah, they sleep with each other and they sleep in large groups. The older they get, the more so they don't necessarily just sleep in their little family grouping. So as long as he has some friends, but he was very thankful that I had him in bed last night. He was so sweet. And I was kind of laying there like, this is so sweet, but you know what else is sweet? Sleep.
Yes, sweet sleep. Anyway, so we're making it through, and we're about a third of the way through, I think.
Yeah. I think 2 weeks from now, we'll hopefully be in recovery mode.
Yeah, that
So
would
this
be
is
great.
the worst it's going to be.
Yeah.
Podcast-wise.
Yes.
Clearly,
yes.
it could get a lot worse.
Yes. So today, we didn't even introduce ourselves.
Oh, gosh.
For
See,
those
there you
that are
go.
just joining us for the first time, I'm Kim.
And I'm Jennifer.
And we're sisters that own the Fleece and Harmony Woolen Mill in Belfast, PEI, Prince Edward Island. Yes, Belfast, PEI in Canada. And if we're a little bit incoherent, that is also a symptom of being partway through lambing. So there might be some cuts and edits here at some point.
We're just going to roll with it.
We're just going to roll.
We also don't have a lot of energy for editing.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's the warning. All right. So today we're going to show you our finished objects, of course, and we have a couple of very preliminary works in progress that we talked about in other episodes. So if this is your first time joining us, you'll see all these things for the first time. For those of you that are back for another episode, we're really happy that you're here, and some of these things you're going to recognize, but we're just going to tidy up a little bit of loose ends on some of the projects that we were working on, and then we had introduced some other projects last time, and we'll just show you. It's very preliminary what we have done, basically swatching. But the process that we went through for these two projects is actually a very good thing to talk about for knitters, so we're going to talk about that. And last episode, we actually missed 2 questions from our Ask Us Anything thread on Ravelry. So we are going to go back and answer those questions. And we have an interview today.
Yes.
With Lady Baker's Teas, Catherine. And this is really interesting, actually. She's got a really cool story. And I think that's it. We have a little bit of a shop update, and we'll announce the winner of our Smitten for Mittens Knit Along.
Knitting along. That's good.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna do all that. All right. So the first thing is
good thing we're taking a light week.
Yeah, it's really light. Okay.
And of course, we're gonna throw in some lamb footage because we have lots.
Yes, we've been busy.
Yeah.
Taking pictures.
Yeah. Videos.
Roger makes an appearance, I'm sure.
Yes. Little Roger.
Okay. So the first thing is the finished objects. So Jen, you finished your mittens.
Yeah, I did finish my mittens. And I blocked them, which is really the most important part. And my second thumb did turn out looser. If you recall, one was like a compression bandage. And in fact, I had knit it so tight in all my magic loop anger that blocking it, stretching it out with blocking wasn't really happening. If you could see the stitches on this thumb, it
looks like it's made by a machine.
I actually didn't think one could knit that tightly.
Yeah.
It's really something. Anyway,
They're
so
lovely.
of course I love them. And they look just spectacular after blocking. It did make a huge difference in sort of the shape of the top. And I didn't post them in the long group yet because we've just been so busy, but I did want to show them. I love them.
They're gorgeous.
I'm totally tempted to knit a second pair. I just think these would just make a beautiful gift for somebody. Yeah. I love them. Yeah. I could not be happier with them, even though the thumb is a little bit tight. It's fine, it fits. And they blocked out perfect to measurement, which was nice. And yeah.
They're gorgeous.
I just think Pia has the most beautiful pattern. So that's my Roses Are Red. I think the full name of the pattern is actually Roses Are Red, Violets Are Blue, but it's a bit confusing because when you search for it, it's just Roses Are Red is the title. Okay. So that's those.
And the winner was?
Oh, and the winner is Fiber Fascinations.
Right. So we've just sent you a message.
Yes. So I've already sent you a message through Ravelry. And thanks to everybody who participated.
Yeah, and it was so great to see the projects, and it was really interesting because some people submitted other knit patterns like as well because you didn't have to knit the Pia patterns, and but to see the differences, it was really cute because there were people that made little alterations on the pattern and made changes and stuff, which is great because you make it your own even though you're following a pattern. So
yeah. I think it was a great project. It was really fun. So we will do another knit along probably sometime in late spring when we come up with a catchy name like the Mitten for Mittens Knitting Along. We can have another one.
Okay, something we both can say.
Right.
So I am going to talk about my Trondheim mittens in finished objects.
Oh, you are?
Because I don't want to talk about them again because they're not quite finished. But I have one finished and blocked, which is beautiful. And you can see, actually, it's really interesting to see the difference of what blocking does. So this is a good example.
You must block. Yeah, it looks so much nicer.
Anyway, I'm almost done. This is all I have left to do of the last one, which I could have easily finished, except I am very good at procrastinating when I really don't enjoy something. And I have to say, even though I have the best tools possible, the little shorty needles from Chiago are amazing. I have longer cords to go on it, so I could do a longer cord with the magic loop. So you don't need to write and say that I should use a longer cord, but I have decided that I'm not a fan of magic loop.
For a thumb.
For a thumb. It's really, I'm going to go back to using double pointed needles for this. So I am going to remove my little needles and I'm going to just finish it with double pointed needles because honestly, I think the magic loop has a lot of good advantages, but on these really small circumferences like this, it's more tedious than it has to be. So that's what I'm going to do. But I don't want to talk about these again because we've already kind of worn this out, I think.
So they're done now. Then.
So they're done, or they will be done.
Right.
As soon as I switch the needles.
But you're done talking about them.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the finished object.
Okay.
Oh, no, you still have it.
Yeah, I have one more. Okay, yes. So I also finished my Both Sides Now and Then socks by Kate Atherley, which took a really long time because I had some issues and I had to take out the toe a couple times. Anyway, I got them done and I've been wearing them. I don't know.
Ever since we'll not show the bottom of them.
Oh, it's fine.
It's got hair on it.
There's probably dog hair and rabbit hair. I've been wearing them.
Yes.
I had them blocked really nicely and then I wanted to try them.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Oh, wow. Okay.
What?
Have you been doing yoga?
No.
Oh.
God, I said I would never show my feet, but I think these are so woolly, it's probably fine. So anyway, I have to say, as a review of our sock yarn, they're incredibly comfortable. Mm-hmm. I didn't know because we use adult mohair how soft they would feel. They feel very soft and fluffy on your feet.
Great.
To a shocking degree. Like even though we made the yarn and I obviously dyed it and had felt it and whatnot, but I couldn't be happier with them.
Good. And that's good news too, because I would imagine the adult mohair is a little bit stronger
Yes,
as well. So it
for
even
sure it would
makes
be.
the socks more resilient. So
Yes.
you mentioned that your objective is going to be just to wear them and see how long you can wear them.
I'm going to wear them every single day for chores until they wear out, and then I'll tell you guys how long they last. So I wore a pair of sort of looser knit socks out in 5 days a couple weeks ago.
Okay, not made with our sock yarn.
They were just made with the McCausland's 2-ply,
Yeah.
and they were knit very loosely on a knitting machine.
Yeah.
But we wear rubber boots that rub a lot. They're like loose sort of rubber boots, and 5 days. 5 days of chores, and there was a big hole in one heel, the right heel, because my right foot's a little bit bigger.
Right.
And then about 3 days later in the left heel, and I mean, and the yarn was worn threadbare.
Okay.
So it just took all the fluff off of it, and then it just broke.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But these, I've worn them already for 5 days.
Right, and there's not a mark on them.
There's not a mark on them.
Excellent.
Yeah, and they're not pilling.
No.
There's just a little bit of rubbing at the back.
Right.
I don't know if they can see.
Well, if you don't see pilling, then it means that
there's a lot of hair on them.
Yeah.
You can tell I mean it. I've really been wearing them.
Yeah, and she's been walking around in here with her sock feet.
Yeah.
Too, which is
that's not a good plan, but I knew I wanted to show them anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be a really good experiment, actually.
Yeah, and I will wear them every day because they're so comfortable. I can't help it.
And we're really hard on them because, like Jennifer said, the rubber boots make. So if you were just wearing them as regular socks, you'd even get an extended amount of time. But the rubber boots are
a bit floppy, so they're rubbing. And I have a very sharp Achilles tendon back here, and that's where mine go. I don't. Yeah, like at the back of the. When I say the heel, I mean the back top of. Back here.
Right.
Like up at the Achilles tendon. I don't wear them out on the bottom.
Okay.
But it's because the boot rubs up against that as I'm walking. So I will wear them out faster than anybody, especially like we say with what we did. If you had them in sneakers or something, they would last 10 times longer, probably.
Right. Or dress shoes or
anything. So
this is a good experiment then.
Yeah, and rubber, would sort of, even though they're slightly lined, but it would kind of stick and
grippy.
Rub, and there's not a mark on them.
No.
And my other ones already had a hole by this point.
Great.
Yeah. So and they're just so comfortable.
Yes. Good.
I love it.
Well, that's a really good test.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the both sides now, and then socks. So that's it for FOs then.
Great. So now we have the works in progress.
Yes.
So do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I guess I'll go first because mine's going to be shorter, I think.
All right.
So I was doing the Saint Lunaire Griquet. I still don't know how to say it, sweater by Jennifer Beale. And I had wanted to do it in blue poppy and the navy, A Night Without Stars. And I started I did a swatch, and I had to go down a needle size, and then I had to go down a pattern size to get the circumference measurement I wanted on this cuff, and it is like a half sleeve, so it would fit around here. So I'm happy with the size of it, but once again, trying to convert a pattern from a superwash gauge to a full wool gauge is nearly impossible.
Yeah.
So this yarn is the identical specs of the yarn that was in the pattern, I think. Like really identical, like 380, 114 grams or something like that, or certainly very, very, very close. Mm-hmm. About as close as you can get without it being the same yarn.
Right.
And it absolutely would not work.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. So superwash I call it dead yarn. There's not a lot of loft to it because the scales have all been removed. And so when you go try to wedge a full, fluffy, woolly, spongy, especially because our yarn is particularly spongy because of our breeding, when you try to jam that into a superwash gauge, you're just going to have to make a lot of concessions to make it work. And I was perfectly fine to do that, and I did get it to work to measurement.
Yeah.
And but now I don't like the color. So that was all good to know.
Well, I think it's important to say why, because the color, obviously blue poppy is beautiful, but there's a lot of detail in the stitch work that you can't see.
Yeah,
so.
I'm gonna explain. So it's a full basket weave pattern sweater. So the whole thing is patterned, and it's knit in 2.25 millimeter as the pattern calls for. I actually had to go down to a 2, like I just mentioned, to try to jam all this wool.
Your knitting is beautiful.
Thank you. Only you can see it though, because a variegated yarn is just not going to show it off enough for the amount of work that's going to go into it. And I really, really want it to shine. And while I'm switching it up, I've actually decided, because of my gauge issues, to go down to our ELDON lace, which is 500 yards for 80 grams. So it's much, much, much finer by spec than what's in the pattern, but I will bet you I will be able to get gauge with that a lot easier, because again, it's a full wool versus a superwash yarn that was used when Jennifer designed the sweater.
And the ELDON lace has mohair in
Yes.
it as well, which helps to make it a little bit more silky.
Yeah. Yeah, I may actually have to go up a needle size to make it work, but I would still prefer that to trying to jam in, make a different size with the pattern, like trying to make this work. So I'm going to save this lovely, it is beautiful, beautiful blue poppy flock fingering. I'm going to save it for another project. I have enough to make a sweater of some type, but it's not going to be a sweater that has the level of detailed stitch work that this one has, because I really want it to shine. So I just realized I forgot to bring over my colors that I'm going to do it in now, so I'm just going to go grab them. All right, so I'm back. So I'm going to make it in these two.
So a completely different direction.
Totally different, but I just made this plover ELDON yesterday, and it turned out so beautiful. I don't know why. It just, I think whatever fleece I used just really had a lot of, it was very white and it had a lot of luster in it. And of course the mohair adds quite a bit of luster as well. And I'm not really a brown person, but this will be the top yoke, and then all the really, really lovely basket weave stitch will be in this brown. And I think it's going to be spectacular.
And the stitching will really shine.
Yeah. Now this might be a bit too fine. I may have to go up a needle size, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. But yeah, save my eyeballs. But yeah, so this is what I'm going to do now. It's completely different, but I'm even more excited because I know the stitch work is very complex in this pattern. I mean, just doing that cuff, I was like, oh my goodness. There's not a lot of rest rows in there.
She was
also known as nearly none.
She was working on it at knit night last night, and she came to a row that was just knit, and there was this Kate, hoot.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I get to knit. One row. So I think it's going to be lovely. I'm just really excited to see all that stitch work.
Yes.
And when you knit a whole sweater in 2 or 2.25 millimeter, you want to see what you did.
Yes.
And
exactly.
I think it might take quite a while. I was like, oh, this will be faster. It's raglan in the round. Possibly not so much. I think it's going to take a really long time.
You're a fast knitter though.
Yeah, so a complete change of track, but that's just, you know, I did up the swatch and I tested it out a little bit, and it wasn't speaking to me.
Yeah.
Oh, and the funny thing is, if you remember our whole chat about the blue poppy dye situation, so this is funny. So I'm casting on, easy, just I did a little cable cast on for the cuff. Oh, nothing's coming off, it's so great. Got into the first stitch pattern, which is kind of like a little bauble where you purl 2 together knitwise and then I think knit the same 2 together.
Yeah,
so it's almost like a little popcorn, like a 2-stitch popcorn. And I started to get tense and my hands started sweating. And guess what? Blue hands. So it's kind of like a mood ring.
Yeah.
Like the harder a time you're having with it, the more blue comes off. So I looked up because we're always so curious about everything, and sweat is an acid pH, and I believe that that's what takes the color back off the yarn. So the denser it gets, the more blue gets on your hands, and I can tell you there's going to be a lot of tension getting through that sweater. So I was going to be a smurf by the time I was done. But it was just so funny because I was like, oh, nothing to it. It's working out great. And then I was like, oh my God. It's tight, and I was like, what am I doing? And I'm knit through these, what? And then it started, you know, like my palms got sweaty.
Yeah.
And the sweatier they got, the bluer they got. And I was like, okay, so I think we've discovered a little something about how that blue poppy transfer works. So you need to meditate and just like crocheting along, not a care in the world. It may be that you might not get a lot of color transfer.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was quite distinctive when the blue started to come off. And it would make sense if it's an acid pH. It must re-release something.
With the friction and the acid pH, probably.
Yeah,
because even though you've rinsed it many times, it doesn't.
Yeah. I rinsed it so much. And the water will run clear.
Yeah.
But it was when I got upset or when I started to get tense.
It kind of makes sense.
I think it does.
Yeah.
But there might be chemists out there who could correct me and say that the acid wouldn't cause it to release, even though it is exhausted with acid. Maybe that's not how that would work, but that certainly seemed to be how it was working in my experience.
Yes. So now we're going to talk about my work in progress,
right?
Which has been a little bit of an adventure.
Yeah,
it's an adventure.
It's a journey.
Yes. So I've put my things in these wool bowls that we have that are handmade by a local carpenter, actually, woodworker. So, as you recall on the last episode, if you were there, these were the 3 yarns. I don't know if you can see this properly, but the 3 yarns that I was debating with to make the Joe Bat's arm. So, I wasn't sure if I was going to use the red Bonfire or the coral lupin as the main part of the sweater with all the cabling or not. And the swatching was going to be the thing that would tell me what I was going to do. So I started the swatch. Some people are going to be very happy that I've done this swatch, and in the end I changed my mind. But I've done the swatch, and I used the coral on the top, and I used the red on the bottom just so I could see how the colors all play together. And I came up with this swatch with this color. And I really discovered through this process that I really don't want to wear a full sweater of either one of these colors. The Vineyard I love because that's just a really great color, but this combination really, it worked a little bit better than I thought it would actually, but I'm not sure that I want a whole sweater out of it. So then I was back to the drawing board. And I was so happy that I did this work because you really didn't know how it was going to really look together with the proportions unless you did it. Swatched it, yeah. Yeah, swatched it. So we got a few comments on when people were saying, "Wow, okay, those are really adventurous colors." So those people will be very happy that I changed my mind. And what I've decided to do with Jennifer's help is actually this group of colors.
Looks amazing. I just want to say that when we were going through the entire store for a week, I did suggest grays.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
But I wanted something brighter.
I got a hard no on that right off the bat.
Yeah. So what we've decided on now is, because I finished the swatch, is slate as the dark color. There's a hit of November Sky, which is the blue that you see.
This one here, yeah.
Yeah, and then we're using Oyster is I think will be the main color. So I've actually changed things around in this part of I'll call it the ribbon, the color work ribbon, because if I was following strictly the instructions of the pattern, the Oyster, which is the main color of the sweater, would be in those medallions, but I'm going to do those in the blue instead. So the pattern is exactly the same. I'm just switching up the colors. Yeah.
I think actually probably what we talked about initially was like black and gray and white.
Yes.
And then, so my point wasn't to be that I was right, but just that you didn't want to do it in black and gray because it seems kind of dark.
Well, it's just that it's so nice, the vibrant colors that Jennifer picked for that, the green and the blue. So why wouldn't I just do it in green and blue? But I didn't want to do it exactly the same as hers.
But then I came up with this idea of the November Sky, and that's what really made it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys are going to be sick of hearing us talking about swatching and gauge and everything, but I just want to continue on with a little bit of the conversation that we were having with Jennifer about her gauge, because this is my original gauge swatch. Even though the weight of this yarn matches the weight that's suggested in the pattern, I couldn't get gauge. So I'm getting 2 stitches less per inch per 4 centimeters, 4 inches. I'm getting 2 stitches less in 4 inches than what the pattern gauge is. So that's not really a problem for me because I know I can change my needle size or I can maybe change the size of the pattern. But unfortunately, that gauge on this needle size, which was the recommended needle size for the pattern, was exactly between the medium size sweater and the large size sweater. So I can't just knit the smaller size because it's going to be too tight. And if I knit the bigger size, it's going to be way too big. And because the sweater is slightly, it's not really fitted, but it has a nice,
it has shaping,
it's got
like
shape.
definition in the shoulders. It's quite important.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and I want it to fit perfectly.
Yeah.
So I did all the math to try to figure out like if I could use this needle size with this gauge for the pattern, and I decided that I couldn't. So again, I was procrastinating a little bit. Plus, I didn't really like the color combination, so obviously had to do a new swatch. So I knit this swatch in a size larger needle, one size larger. That was Jennifer's suggestion. It was a good one because now I'll knit the medium size sweater with the one size larger needle, and my gauge doesn't match the recommended gauge, but when I calculated how many stitches per inch I have or per centimeter, it works that I can do the medium size without making a lot of adjustments on the pattern with this. And also, because of the way that our yarn performs, I actually like this fabric. I like this fabric a bit better. It's a little bit less stiff. You do need a little bit of a robust fabric to make that collar stand up on the sweater, but I think this will work better on a lot of different things.
It's no fun trying to jam yarn into a gauge.
Yes.
That's what I've discovered.
Yes.
I don't like it.
It's not really worth it.
And our yarn's very full, and it can be quite stiff and very, very, very hot.
Yes.
Like almost so that you could only wear it in the middle of January.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this really is a really important part, and we're going to give you some resources to talk about this, because when you're knitting, you have to knit what you're going to like. And that doesn't mean that you have to pick a certain pattern and a certain yarn. You just need to know how to make the yarn and the pattern work together. So this was a really good solution. Go up half a needle size, do the smaller size on the pattern, because I did the math to figure out how many stitches per inch or per centimeter I would need to get the specs of the pattern.
The final measurement, like the finished measurements is what you're knitting to.
Exactly. And there's a very simple process to do that I won't take the time to explain here, because there's some really, really good videos that you can watch. And one in particular is Cheryl Brunette has a video which we'll put a link to. And she is, this is by no means an insult, but like an old school knitter. So she was taught by her mother, I believe. She just makes it simple. She's plain speaking. She's got a couple videos that are really good about, and she actually would say, never mind what the pattern gauge is. You need to knit your gauge and try to knit comfortably. And whatever your gauge is, then you make the adjustments for the pattern. Don't try to change your gauge to fit to a pattern's specification. So it's a really good philosophy. She's got great videos on it. It's very clear. She goes step by step on everything. The math is arithmetic, so it's not too complex. And it's a really good resource. And there's a few other ones that if you Google online, you'll be able to find them. So that's what I'm going to do.
And it's great when you can go up a needle size and down a sweater size, because it's actually fewer stitches.
Yeah, exactly.
You will be knitting less, but get the same size sweater.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
I always have the opposite. I'm going down needles and because I'm
I mean, it all would depend on the fabric that it made as well. If the fabric wasn't suitable, but I actually like this fabric better because of the larger needle size allows our yarn to live.
Yeah.
So, and this has been washed and blocked, so I know how it's going to perform. This will be the final fabric. So
perfect.
My whole mindset has changed. I was always excited about the pattern because I thought it was just stunning. Wasn't sure about that, even though I wanted to take a chance on color. I really wasn't sure about the colors that I had. But now, while I was knitting this, I could feel the excitement.
Okay, so we're all sorted out then.
We're all sorted out.
We went completely different way, but we're gonna love our projects, and we took the time to work through the process.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
I think is to be happy. Okay, so that's that. So now the next segment is Welcome to Our World. So we're back on track in the mill, and we're going to look at a short video about skeining the yarn. So after the yarn has been spun, it needs to be and plied, it needs to be skeined up into the twists that you buy at the yarn store. So Jennifer's going to show us that.
Yeah, and it's a very short segment. We're getting close to the end of our yarn making process, but it's neat to see the machine going anyway. It's fun. All right. So we'll be back in a minute. All right, so this is the skeiner where we measure out the yarn to be twisted into skeins, and you can see there's a little readout there. So we just select the length. It has two different sizes. The one on the left is a 1.5 yard size, and the one on the right is a 2 yard per revolution size, and we just determine which one to use based basically on the yardage of the skein and how it will look skeined up. It's a really fun machine to watch, and you can see all my colors on the wall behind, which is cute too. So this is sort of the final step right before dyeing, and when they're skeined up, I tie them all very loosely so that when they go into the dye vat, you don't get sort of a tie-dye effect, and everything turns out really nice. So usually by the time we get to this point, we're feeling pretty satisfied and yarn is on the way.
Okay, so now everybody knows by now, if you've been following us on Instagram or on our Facebook or whatever, is that we're in the middle of lambing. And we've already explained why we're a little bit stunned today. So, so we're gonna do a quick farm date update. We'll show you some lambing footage and some pictures. So we're gonna go right to that.
Yeah, these lambs really speak for themselves.
Yeah.
They need no introduction.
No, exactly.
So we hope you enjoy seeing their joy.
Yes.
Okay.
Then the next the next segment is really great because we have people coming here to talk to us about things that interest us. It's always, we find it very enriching. Mm-hmm. Some of you know that we send out little goodies with our online orders that we ship out, and we were sending out little soaps that are locally made, and we've just started sending out some samples of tea, and the owner of the tea company that's here on the island is Catherine Burnett, and she's actually coming to be interviewed, so we're going to go to that. Fascinating.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, it was great. It's a great interview, so we hope you enjoy it.
Yes. Hi, everybody. We're so happy today to have a guest with us on the podcast, and it's a very special guest. It's Catherine Burnett, who is the owner and founder of Lady Baker's Tea, which is a tea company based right here in Prince Edward Island. And we're so excited to have you with us, Catherine. We read about your story, and as people that have ordered from us know, we always send some kind of little treat in the box if you've ordered from our online shop. And we like to promote other local businesses with those little treats that we send. And we're just starting to send out Catherine's teas actually as part of the little treat in the box. And we were so happy to find a local tea person, because it's not something that's grown locally, but you've made it a local product in ways that we'll talk about. So Catherine, I guess the first question that I would ask you is, I know that this was not your original career choice, but you kind of fell into it like a lot of entrepreneurs do. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your story?
Sure. Well, I was actually living in Charlotte, North Carolina at the time when I had finished being administrator and working in offices over the few years, and I had a very dear friend, Irene Baker, in Nova Scotia. We had lived in Nova Scotia, and she often invited me for afternoon tea, and I had 5 little kids and then into teens and all that at that time. So it was an absolute pleasure to go and sit in her little living room, and she would put her hand-knit afghan on my lap, bring me a cup and saucer of tea, and usually had made homemade cookies. She was just a real comfort to me when I was a young mom raising kids in a very hectic situation. So when we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, for other reasons, I got word from her son in Nova Scotia that she passed away, and I knew that was inevitable and the time was nearing. But I decided then that it was time for me to express with tea a ministry, a hospitality ministry that I always had a feeling for. Visiting with my grandmother, visiting with my mother-in-law and grandmother-in-law, was just, having tea was so special. So I grew up with tea and the tea culture of just sitting and having afternoon tea. So I decided I was going to start a visiting hospitality ministry to the elderly, now of which I am an elderly.
We're all getting there.
It's funny how that works, eh?
At the time, I decided that I would advertise. I had to start a company, and I called it Lady Baker's Tea Trolley, because well, first of all, Irene Baker, those of us who knew her, we had nicknamed her Lady Baker.
Okay.
So we always just called her Lady Baker. And so then I thought, well, the trolley indicates movement, you know, and then the tea trolley. So I thought, I'm going to start a business, and brainstorming a name, Lady Baker's Tea Trolley is what came out of it. So I started advertising, and there's a large retirement community in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I started getting calls and just take in small tea parties to maybe one person in a retirement community who wanted to have some friends over. And so often it was the adult children who hired me to go in and do these as a birthday gift or a Christmas gift, you know. We're giving you a tea party, Mom, or whatever.
Oh, lovely.
So anyway, I got started doing that, and it was so fulfilling. I had a little pull cart that was my little trolley, and I took off in the car visiting these places and took the fine china, and I always took a bouquet of flowers and the tea, of course. So it was just a little old-fashioned tea party. Most of the people I visited had downsized, and so their fine china had been packed away or given to grandchildren or whatever. So it was really quite delightful. I might ask one question, what was your wedding china or whatever. And we would just get talking about. So it was as much a ministry for me as to the other person, because I just love doing that. So in that process of 6 years in Charlotte, North Carolina, I got to know a little bit more about tea. My business was not tea, it was hospitality.
Right.
So,
You
but
put
I
the tea
started
in
learning more
hospitality.
about tea. So I actually started looking up a lot more about tea, and then I started doing a tea a month at a historic home that was open to the public.
Oh.
And so I needed to offer different teas on that. And so I said, well, I got to learn about teas. So I really had no clue about tea. It was the hospitality and that ministry that I really wanted to be involved with. But so I started taking some courses, online courses through the Specialty Tea Institute in the States. And when I moved back to Canada, I found that in Toronto is the base for the Tea Association of Canada, and they offer all kinds of tea programs. It's quite exciting. I recommend anyone to become a member if they want. It's now called the Tea and Herbal Association of Canada.
Oh, okay.
So when I moved back here in 2006, I thought, now what? I tried a little bit of catering over snowbanks.
Yeah.
Not fun, especially when you're carrying your fine china and you got a bouquet of flowers and you're trying to get out of the car by a snowbank. And so I soon felt, I don't think I'm up to this catering. So I thought, but I've learned so much about tea. How about I apply to the farmer's market and see if I could just sell tea at the farmer's market? So it's 2007, Christmas 2007, I got notified by the manager there that, yeah, we have a space for you. And I've been there ever since.
Oh,
Wow.
And so on occasion, I will do a tea at a community care or assisted living, the Mount in particular. But I haven't done one in a while because my business has just gotten so demanding.
Yeah, excellent.
And as I'm getting older, I find the energy to produce a tea for 40 people is a lot.
Yeah.
So
That's neat.
Yeah.
I think that's great. It would be wonderful if one of our viewers was inspired to start something similar in their neighborhood.
I really encourage it. You don't need much. You need a teapot and some pretty cups and saucers, and if you're inclined to take a bouquet, I would make scones and just a couple of different cookies and probably take a little fruit.
Yeah.
And the tea, of course, I'd make it and visit, and
Wow.
wonderful time.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's just wonderful.
Wow, that's a great story.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
very, very nice.
People ask me, so are you Lady Baker? And I said, well, no, she's in heaven.
Yeah.
But I hope she's looking down and feeling satisfied, that something has come out of her ministry to me.
Yeah.
And
What a great story.
Yeah, absolutely. That's wonderful.
It's true. What you're expressing, though, is that there is something different about making tea and enjoying it with somebody or relaxing with a cup of tea on your own that is different from other hot beverages. You hear coffee is for gulping, tea is for sipping. Yeah.
And it's so hot. I think a lot of times when we make coffee now, it comes out of a percolator or something. And mine, it's actually not that hot when it comes out of the pot. But a tea is a forced slowdown because we do that too.
Yeah.
If we really, really need to just sit and relax, we'll make tea, which is weird because we're actually coffee drinkers on a daily basis. Every morning, that's our drink of choice because we're thinking at that point, this is to get me going.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas tea, even though I know it does have caffeine, it just seems like more of a slow, like a forced slowdown for some reason. And probably it's just in the tradition because Maritimers, I don't know, they're big tea drinkers. And for sure, it always was an event to have tea. And I've noticed on the island here too, people will invite you for a tea in their kitchen if you show up, no matter what time of day, and that kind of thing. So that's really cool. Yeah.
It's very rural, much more rural on the island, the idea of, you can't go before you have a cup of tea.
Right.
Yeah, well, one of my bloggers, Peter, who does a blog for me every now and then, the last one he did for me was coffee means go, tea means stop.
Yeah.
I thought, so he conveyed that how he had learned. He loves coffee.
Yeah.
But he had learned through the whole process of making tea that tea does mean stop. It means reflection. It means
Yeah.
And there are relaxing tea options like chamomile or peppermint, or there's other types of teas besides the caffeine go method of delivery that is the cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually a perfect segue to the next question about the different teas. You had mentioned that all tea, they're like true teas, are all from the same plant.
Right.
Yeah, so
And that is a misconception. It's called the Camellia sinensis plant, and there are several varietals, but this Camellia sinensis plant is the base of all teas. Now, herbals, of course, come from plants, and it's just, but we tend to call them teas. But if you have a black tea, a green tea, an oolong tea, a white tea, they're all produced from the Camellia sinensis plant, but they're processed differently.
Oh, okay.
So a black tea, you could, at the same farm, could pluck leaves for a black tea process, and they can also pluck for a green tea process. And they just have to go through different processes to get to the final black tea or the final green tea.
So it's the exact same leaf could go on 2 different tracks.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I thought one was at a different
Absolutely.
growth stage or something.
Yeah, and so
yeah.
and then what makes the difference in the recommended temperature to steep it in then? Because I know green tea you do at a lower temperature than a black tea.
Exactly.
So what causes that?
I've had many people say to me with my booth at the farmer's market that, they don't know, they don't like green tea, it's too bitter. And I said, well, are you putting boiling water on it? Well, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's what will make it bitter. The green tea is not oxidized, so it doesn't go through the whole process of becoming black.
Okay.
And so it's much more sensitive to the temperature of water. I was told in one course I took that the boiling water on the green leaf will make it bitter. It bruises it because the leaf has not been put through the oxidation process. So black tea, you can use full boil water. Green tea, 80-85 degrees. And I found, most people don't have a thermometer on their kettle. I do at the market because we do a lot of green tea and we want to make sure we're not putting the boiling water on it. But so if you're bringing your kettle to a full boil, I'd recommend letting it sit about 5 minutes before you pour it onto the green tea. So, and then you have white tea, which is very little process at all. It's basically the wilted and dried leaf right away.
Oh, okay.
It takes about an 80 degrees. This watermelon twist we call, it's a white tea.
Oh, okay.
With a few other things to make it make it more fruity. But so I do have a couple of white teas. They're not in the Maritimes. People don't really know much about white teas, although education-wise, there's so many more people are learning about teas. The education's out there now, and the health benefits and all that.
Yeah, and those are great served cold. Like if you brew it and then do it as an iced tea the next day. I do that often with any white teas that I have.
We sell a lot of iced tea, even at the farmer's market. I can't believe it could be the coldest day of the year.
Oh.
And I'll have several people still know we'd like to have some iced tea.
Oh,
really?
Okay.
It's refreshing and invigorating.
Yeah. So, we really, then I mentioned the oolongs, and they're like between a black tea and a green tea. They're partially oxidized. So the ones that are greener, you use the 80-degree water. The ones that are blacker, you can use a boiling water.
And you can just look at it and know if it's greener or blacker, I guess.
You can by looking at it. In our case, we put the instructions on the back of the bag, just because most people aren't aware that they should be thinking more about the temperature of the water.
Yeah, it's certainly something I learned in the last couple of years about green tea. What a difference.
Yeah.
It was always bitter. I would drink it anyway because it seemed like the thing to do.
Yeah.
But absolutely, if you put the right temperature of water on it, it's night and day.
Makes all the
And we
difference.
do have a tea thermometer. You can buy them just to put in your cup.
You can,
and make sure that it's right before
Yeah.
you put your stuff in. And a lot of teas now are so specialized, or if they're local, you know, it's a little bit of an investment to make sure that you have a good one, and then you want to prepare it correctly.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
overcooking your steak.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what is the proper brewing time?
Well, that varies too with the teas.
Right.
So a black tea, now, okay, the specialty leaf teas that I'm involved with are not the tea bag teas.
Right.
Although we put them in tea sacks, but I like to use the fuller leaf, the processed leaf that hasn't been chopped down to make for tea bags. If you bought your common tea at the grocery store, a black tea, you really don't have to infuse it very long. It infuses really fast because there's more of the ground tea to water, so it infuses very quickly. But if you're using a black tea, specialty teas we call them, 3 to 5 minutes. Now I find 3 minutes pretty good for me. I have had people say, well, I like it a little stronger. So, but 3 to 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, you are going to get more of the bitterness coming through.
Okay.
Now, green tea, 1 to 3 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
1 minute. Oh, that's for when you're in a hurry then. You don't have to heat the water as high, and it steeps faster.
Yeah. So what have you found with green tea?
I've been leaving it a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
I actually think I would have, because the color is lighter, you think leave it longer.
Yeah.
So I was totally
yeah.
making that mistake.
Yeah.
I think 1 minute is a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you're done. Just
Well.
keep going.
What it really boils down to, no pun intended,
Oh, we love puns around here.
how do you like it?
Right.
Yes.
The brewing times, well, the brewing temperatures, I would say, are very important, but the length of brewing is really, well, how do I like
Personal.
it?
Yeah.
Like if I left a black tea sack in for 5 minutes, I would definitely say, oh, I left this in for too long. Whereas one of my gals at the Abbey, she just, oh, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like mine
So,
longer too.
you know.
Yeah.
So
But I have to say, I'm a little bit shocked. I was, because we're from the Maritimes originally, but not from PEI. So we're from Nova Scotia, and my grandmother always had tea.
Yeah.
Never drank coffee really, and she liked it super hot, and it had to be a brown color in the cup with the milk. Like it had to be, you know.
Yeah.
And what I find here in this local area is that sometimes when we're at different things like strawberry socials and things like that, and people are pouring tea and they pour it in advance so people can just pick up the cup, and I can't tell the difference between the coffee and the tea. So it's really
that
black.
dark?
It's
Oh,
really
wow.
black.
Wow.
Yeah, and
To look at.
they love it. That's a good cup of tea. And I'm like, okay, I like mine fairly dark, but that's when I can't tell the difference in the cup between the tea and the coffee, then that's, but it's everybody's taste. And it does taste, it doesn't taste bitter.
Yeah.
It tastes good, but it's
They
just,
like their traditional black tea here. Like I'm sure they drink Red Rose or King Cole, or you know, like the sort of older generation. And I made a huge mistake the first few weeks we moved here. A neighbor came and I offered them tea, and it was chai tea, and he had no idea what he was getting into because I had just moved from Toronto, and I served this tea, and honestly, it might as well have been poison the way he was looking at it from the smell of it. And
this tea?
Yeah, and I was like, it was just not right. So he didn't drink it. And I don't think I ever saw him again.
no.
Don't go for tea over there is what he's thinking.
Well, when I started at the farmer's market 11 years ago now, it was 11 years ago this past December, I had more people say, well, do you just have King Cole? Well, don't you just have, you know, and I've met the blender of King Cole. I really respect, it's wonderful, and I've met him, and the route they went is for tea bags, that's, it's a good tea they use, but with the specialty teas, and then green tea, and then white tea, and then oolong, most people, it was so foreign to them because the maritime culture is a good cup of black tea.
Yeah. Don't serve them chai.
hot.
If you move here from away.
So, and my dad put a lot of sugar in his tea. So by the end of the day, if I visited my parents, my dad, throughout the day, he made the pot of tea first thing in the morning. Then throughout the day, he would add another tea bag.
Yes.
A little bit more
Yes.
water. An hour later, another tea bag. So by the end of the day, there might be like 8 tea bags.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
But he would put so much sugar. I said, well, it's no wonder he can't taste the tea anyway. The sugar. So that was sort of my experience, you know, as I got a little older, when I'd visit my parents and see, okay, this is how they do
my husband's family does that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like,
Just throw another bag in?
Yeah,
Why?
his sister in particular, and I had tea there. It's fine,
Yeah.
but she keeps the pot on the stove,
Yeah.
on a simmer.
He did all the time.
Yeah, and that's what she does.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
keep adding.
Yeah.
keep-
Well, that's a good
Yeah.
way to be prepared for the neighbors to drop by.
Right.
It's always ready.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I don't know why it didn't taste bitter.
Well,
but
it can hold
just-
up because it's
yeah.
the black tea, I guess. If you did that with green tea, you'd really be in trouble by the
Yeah.
sounds of things.
Yeah.
It would be terrible.
When you get into the specialty teas, like the larger leaf, you know, the ones that aren't ground up so small, and there's a method for that. It's called the CTC, you know, cut, tear, curl, and I've watched it in some factories I've been in. They really dice up the tea,
Right.
whereas the orthodox method, they keep the leaf. It may be broken, but they also keep the leaf. You
Right.
can identify it as a leaf, whereas the CTCTs for tea bags are, you really wouldn't know that it was a leaf at one
Right.
time.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
Yeah.
And that was developed because people did want something to do quickly
And
easily.
portable.
But with the whole leaf or the specialty teas, you're going to get so much more complex flavors.
Right.
So it's just not a strong black tea. But like, for example, high-grown teas versus low-grown teas, altitude, it can both be in India, but
Right.
taste so
Yes.
different. Like
Yes.
a high-grown black tea versus a low-grown black tea. The high-grown is sort of a little more complex. The low-growns are malty, you know, a bit
Oh, neat.
almost molassesy.
Oh,
you know.
wow.
The high-growns are...
Cool.
Just,
oh my
uh,
gosh, we could talk about this for hours. We may have to do a part 2.
So when I was at your shop at the Abbey, just that's really cute. I love it. They're
Yeah.
at the Kirk of St. James, right?
Yeah,
In
we're
the-
so glad to get that space. 'cause
Yeah,
we were
yeah.
getting desperate.
Yeah. So you talked about pairings, doing pairings, and you're doing some work with that.
Yes.
So pairing tea with different things.
Pairing teas, so far, what I have done, but there's so many things can be done. Pairing tea with cheese and pairing tea with chocolate.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we've had a lot of fun with that. I've done a couple of chocolate pairings. A company that makes chocolates in Charlottetown wants to sell product with a little package of tea with
Right.
the chocolate.
Right.
So, you know, we do
Wonderful.
some tasting, and we, you know, you rub the chocolate a little bit, you take a little bite and move it around and let it hit all the areas of your mouth, and then you take a sip of tea. If you took that sip of tea without doing your chocolate tasting, it would taste entirely different.
Right.
Right.
So you take it with the chocolate, and it brings out a flavor or flavors, and you're just like, oh my gosh. This
Yeah.
is... Same with cheese. I would never think of putting like a blue cheese with a smoky tea.
Right.
And I learned how yummy that is.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
So, for example, if someone wanted to have a wine and cheese party, but you're bringing in people, some may not drink alcohol.
Right.
You can have a lovely iced tea table with cheeses and crackers.
Oh.
You know,
Great.
and that's an alternative for people who don't
Right.
want alcohol.
Oh, excellent.
So that's becoming so much trendier now.
Yeah. Well, I think people are more aware of the variations and complexities of foods in general or beverages or whatever, that it's easier to get educated maybe because you have access to the online and now, I mean, I don't even know if it's the correct word to call you a tea sommelier, or is the wine people would freak out? I don't know.
No.
Okay.
No, I am a certified tea sommelier now. Some people laugh and say, great. One person even said to me, isn't that kind of silly?
Yeah.
So she apologized since because she realized it was very serious for me.
Yeah.
But the Tea and Herbal Association of Canada does offer that. They do have a program that's been certified, accredited. It's offered in several community colleges.
Right.
Like the Culinary Institute, for example, here could start that program.
Oh, great.
Yeah, if it was all set up that way. But and I attended the a conference in Niagara Falls, and one of the instructors from the Niagara College, she does wine, tea, and cheese pairings, and she compares the wines and the teas.
Oh,
so similar.
Yeah.
Where they're grown, high grown, low grown, the grapes, the leaf. It's just fascinating. She did a whole program at one of the conferences, and it was wonderful. So it's just it's
a whole world.
Yeah, it's a whole world.
Yeah.
When I used to say when I would go to these tea conferences, you almost feel like you're at a rock concert and you're a groupie.
We feel like that about yarn shows.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Because you listen to these speakers who are just magnetic. I mean, they're just really amazing. They're talking about tea. It's a passion, and then we're all sitting, and then after we're all talking about it. You just feel it's an excitement, and I think tea is gaining so much more in popularity now worldwide.
Yes.
But Canada and the U.S. have seen tremendous growth in tea sales in the specialty tea area.
Well, and I think that when you discover a specialty tea and you learn how to brew it properly and you taste it, and then I would imagine there's a real benefit to doing like vertical tastings too, to really understand what you're talking about. But you do learn that it's not just a black liquid in a pot, that you just that there's a lot more to it, and that you can expand and have. I have a selection of teas, and I definitely have a time when I want my Earl Grey, and another time when I want my an herbal infusion instead, and things, so you get to suit your.
And you can incorporate teas into preserves too. So I have a rhubarb vanilla Earl Grey jam that I make. Yeah, and there was a woman in Toronto when I lived there doing herbal chocolates, and she would actually put like coriander filling in a chocolate and lavender and things like that. So you could actually make tea chocolates too, I think, combine them right in one bite.
Yeah, and Pam at the farmer's market, that's exactly what she does. We partnered a little bit, and she buys tea and she makes it in her fillings.
Right.
So let's give her a shout out. What's the name of her company?
Chock full of good.
Full of good. Cool.
Okay.
And that's at the
she's
Charlottetown
right
Farmers
across
Market.
from me, almost at the market. And she does a whole variety of chocolates, pralines she calls them. They don't all have nuts, but but some of them are with Lady Baker's tea.
Oh, great.
Wow. It sounds like we need to go to the farmers market.
Yeah.
And does she sell online?
She does not have an online store.
Okay. I just asked because actually most of our viewers are in the US.
Yeah.
Yeah, that watch our podcast. So
it's kind of her craft hobby more than she works full time.
Yeah, well, we all know how that starts.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Pam may be online before you know it.
Yeah. All right, well, why don't you tell us about what you're featuring for spring and summer that you brought with you?
Yes, well, every summer, as at Christmas time, we try to come up with some little gift that's not overly pricey, but that people can get try teas a little bit. So we have 4 summer teas that we brought in last summer just to experiment at the market. We didn't sell them online. So actually, 2 of them are herbals. One is, and the reason we have these for summer is because they really are exceptional iced. They're they're lovely
the
hot.
name already of that
But
left
they
one.
are. So our pina colada. So our pina colada and our to market. Now to market is actually dried fruits and vegetables, and it was perfect. We gave it the name because we thought,
So cute. And your
that's-
packaging's so cute too. I love it.
yeah. Those are both herbals for our summer, and it's really nice because if you're having a kid's birthday party or something in the summer, you can offer them.
Oh, they
cute.
love it. In
Okay,
China
with
cups.
their cupcakes. Yeah. Okay.
Top them up with a little homemade lemonade. We do that at the market. All our iced tea, we offer a top up of homemade lemonade.
Oh my
So
goodness,
instead
we need
of
to
a
get to the market.
sweetener.
We never have
We don't
time.
get out enough.
No, my gosh, this is wonderful.
Then my favorite flavored green tea. We have a few flavored green teas. We found that most people still aren't so sure about green tea, the grassiness or the vegetativeness, they're not so sure. But a cucumber melon is so good. Oh, I could open these and you can smell them. But this actually has dried cucumber in it. It's Essentia green tea from China, actually from China and Japan, both green teas. Japanese green teas are sort of a lighter green liquor, but they're also steam fired. So if you think of broccoli and you steam broccoli, it stays quite green and tastes vegetative. Whereas China green teas are pan fired or pan roasted to stop the oxidation. So think of roasting broccoli on your grill or whatever.
Oh, neat.
It browns and it tastes roasty or toasty.
This is fascinating. Can we open it? I really want to smell it.
Absolutely, but you are going to have to cut that. Is
Okay.
that-
Oh, I don't. I can't. Just.
Oh, well,
because-
yes, you can
Yeah,
try it, yeah.
I'll do it.
There we go.
I'm a tea opener from a way back.
I
I can get into anything.
and
Right.
usually at the Abbey.
Oh, I can smell it already. It
yeah.
smells delicious. I feel really bad for the people watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that lovely?
I've just zoned out. So nice.
And just you can imagine that iced.
Yes, I definitely can. It smells sweet.
Oh, yeah. The melon and cucumber.
Yeah.
It's perfect, actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't want to put you on the spot about this because it's really important that we talk about, because of the teas that we've selected to send out to our customers.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't grow tea in Prince Edward Island.
Right.
So you source the tea from other countries.
Yes.
But you do add other ingredients that are local.
Yes, many of our teas. I have done some of my own blends, and it's experimenting, and we have about 6 of Lady Baker's signature blends. But a lot of the teas we can bring in, like we have an organic island strawberry, we call it. We've named it that. It comes with some dried strawberries in it.
Right.
But we love to dry strawberries. So we have had someone dehydrating for us, but we have now acquired a dehydrator. But we also have met someone else who would be happy to dehydrate for us. So whenever we can add island strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, rose petals, rose hips.
Wow.
We have been able to access all of those, and we add a certain percentage of the island product too. So we're able to say with PEI berries, our
Lovely.
watermelon twist. So we have PEI raspberry pieces in there.
Wow.
So yeah.
I love it. It's so
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And you don't sell online either.
Yes.
Oh,
we
you do? Oh, wonderful. Okay, because people are
we're
going to
really-
be wanting to get some.
In North America only, you sell all around.
Yes.
Yeah. I talked with my web guy about looking into that. I know with tea there are a little stricter regulations, so
Oh,
some
okay,
countries
yeah.
don't
Right,
allow
it is sort
it
of
to
a
come
food.
in.
Yeah.
But we just have to think more about that.
But for the U.S. people that are watching,
Oh,
yes,
Oh my gosh,
no
let's try.
problem.
Can I
No
open the
problem.
pina colada
Actually-
one? Can I smell this?
Yes.
Oh
go
my
ahead and-
gosh, I'm sorry. I'm a
most
big
of,
pina colada person.
At least half of our online customers are American.
Yes.
Yes,
And a lot
great.
of them have come here in the summer, experienced
yeah.
the tea at a
Yeah.
restaurant or whatever.
Yeah.
Contact us.
Oh, this is like, oh my gosh. It's a little bit like brown sugary smelling. It's, this is waking me right up. I've had no sleep.
And all of our teas
Oh my gosh, I love it.
have natural flavors, and they are organically compliant flavors.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, do you want to smell that?
Yes.
Yeah,
Of
she
course.
wants to smell that.
One of my gals, my social media gal, is allergic to pineapple.
Oh, no.
Oh,
So we
okay.
can't make this when she comes to work.
Oh dear.
Oh.
It smells delicious.
Coconut, you pick up on the
Yeah.
coconut. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is
That's
it like
like-
roasted coconut?
Sorry?
Is the coconut like roasted? Like what's the brown sugary kind of smell I'm getting?
Well, let's see, what's all in here? Dried apple, rose hips, pineapple, coconut, hibiscus, and natural flavors. So some of that would be the natural
Okay.
flavoring.
Yeah. It smells really good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So tell us what are in the sample if they want to try the sampler.
Yeah, so our samplers, we have the turquoise and the lime green, and they go with the
Yeah. Look at that. It's clear we were all in the spring spring mood. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love it.
So we
Gosh, imagine knitting your socks and just taking your tea out of the
Yeah.
turquoise box.
Yes. It's amazing. It's so funny.
Yeah.
This wasn't planned, by the way.
Yeah.
This-
They know, they've seen that yarn there for weeks.
yeah.
So in our little packages, and they retail at $15, we have the 4 summer teas, but we also put the little make your own tea bag,
Right.
tea sacks in them. So each of these would be enough for a couple of cups of iced tea. So
Okay.
it's mostly to introduce people to them and then, oh, I really like that, I'm going to order it online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So-
it's a good chance now that we've talked about the different flavors and everything that you could do like a little tasting with your 4 summer teas. and-
Oh, yes, yes. Well, I did have a group in a couple of weeks ago, the Wohelo. They raise money for hospital equipment. Great group of ladies, and they get together once a month. So one of them called me and said, well, could we come to the Abbey and taste some of your teas? I said, perfect. So we did a tea tasting. There were 11 ladies. And what I did was, I did a black tea, a green tea, an oolong, a white, and a pu'er, it's called. It's an aged fermented tea.
Oh.
Those are the 5 different types of tea that all come from the same plant. There's also a yellow tea I've never had. It's rare, but it is considered one of the types of tea.
Oh, okay.
It's a lot like a green tea. It's just dried longer and it's yellower when
Yeah.
in the infusion. But so they came in and well, I blogged about it as much as I can blog about personal experiences. They just had a great time, and some of the comments were, "This is why I don't like green tea."
Okay. Well, because there's something for everybody.
Yeah. Or this is tea. You know,
Right.
just the different tastes, all from the same plant, depending
Right.
on the
Right.
processing.
It's fascinating.
So it was a very basic tea 101 I offered, and we had some iced tea recipes, and they were able to choose which teas they wanted. They could smell. I have a whole rack of teas they can smell.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
sniffing is the thing.
Yeah.
I'm totally into it. I'm loving it. Yeah, it's so wonderful.
I just I have this burning question. Now matcha is really talked a lot. So there's that I wanted to ask. That's a ground tea, I think, right?
Yes, matcha is ground tea. Now, okay, there's something kind of important about matcha. They are now calling, and I think it's more to sell it. It's but matcha originally is specifically grown shaded in the last 20 days before it's plucked.
Okay.
Very high quality Japanese leaf. And then it goes through the processing for matcha, and it takes a long time to grind it. They grind it very slowly. And they can store the leaf when it's ready to grind even, and then store it properly and then grind it. But now you'll see this matcha and that matcha, and so it's kind of become the thing to say any ground tea leaf is matcha.
Oh, okay.
But it's not so.
Know your
But
stuff.
matcha has kind of become a ground tea leaf.
Okay.
Oh.
Whereas originally and still matcha is only from a certain type of Camellia sinensis that is shaded because you want to keep the photosynthesis process nice and green.
Oh, okay.
So I have seen on different retail shelves, such and such a matcha, and I read very carefully because if it's just a ground tea of any kind,
Yeah, it's not much.
it's not your true matcha. Yeah.
Interesting.
And
So
then
good.
the other tea that I was always interested in, the one that, and I don't want to say a name because I'm not sure, but it's little balls. What is that?
Yes. Well, you can get there's the pearls.
Yes.
And often you can get a jasmine in a pearl.
Okay.
It's the way it's processed and rolled. But also there's the gunpowder
Yes,
teas.
that's it. The gunpowder teas. Yeah.
The gunpowder teas are primarily Taiwan,
Okay.
China and Taiwan, but they, yes, when they're processed, depending on the size of the factory, they're either machine rolled or hand rolled.
Yes, so that's actually what I heard.
Yeah.
The ones that I've seen were hand rolled.
Yeah.
They're really expensive.
Yeah.
But now,
No
that's
wonder.
why. Yeah.
Just
I can picture it. So they actually have people in the factory
I've
doing
seen
hand
it.
rolling. Yeah.
I've seen it.
Wow.
And I've seen the machines, and of course machines can do everything so much faster. But depending on, the quality of the leaf and how it's processed,
It's a
will be
handcrafted.
the price.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's still, I thought it was something different, but it's still tea.
It's still the Camellia
Yeah,
sinensis.
okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And it would be a China grown. And they have big, almost like wok-like dishes where you can see them
Oh,
you know,
wow.
Oh, wow.
rolling. Or the machinery kind of rolls it around. It's quite fascinating.
Wow.
I've seen both. I was so fortunate to be able to go with the Tea Association of Canada and visit some tea farms and factories in India.
Oh wow! So do they send out delegations to play? Like if someone were to join the society, they could go on some of these trips. That's amazing.
Well, I could have been in China right now. But
Well, we're sorry.
the last group of Sommelier graduates, an invitation was put out to us to go to with the president of the Tea Association. It's who I went with. The past president I went to India with, and there were 8 of us.
Oh, wow.
Wonderful. We stayed overnight on some of the
Oh.
What an
farms.
amazing community to get into then. That's so
it was
cool.
What
Yeah.
an experience. And then, then they were doing a China one the end of March, but no, it just wasn't going to happen this
Yeah,
time.
I think the summer is preparing for summer on PEI. It's
Yeah.
quite a bit busy
It's-
time.
It
yeah.
is. So, yeah.
Wow.
All right. Well, I think we should stop there because
Yeah.
we've talked for a really long time. But if you don't mind, we'll ask our viewers if they have any other questions for you. They can send them along, and maybe we'll do a part
Absolutely.
2 where we might just reach out to you directly and get them answered. Because I think there's really a lot to this, and
It's
everybody's
amazing.
different.
Yeah.
So they may have asked you different things than what we asked. So if anyone wants more information, then just
Yeah.
send
I
it
love,
along.
I love to talk tea.
Yeah, we have a little thread on our Ravelry group, which people can ask us any questions, and we'll answer it on the
Right.
next podcast. So if they want to ask questions there, and I don't know, I'm absolutely fascinated. I'm a tea drinker, and I do drink specialty teas, but I had no idea. what it
Yeah,
was.
it's so great.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, so we want to
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming.
You're
And-
so welcome.
We know you're
Yes,
busy.
everybody gets a hug.
Yeah.
So good.
The drive here,
Yeah.
the drive here was beautiful. Coming
Yeah,
from
it's been
Charlottetown,
beautiful
so
weather.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Yeah.
All right,
Good.
perfect. Okay,
Okay.
well, we'll say goodbye.
Bye.
Okay, so that was fascinating.
She was great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just love her story, and that we thought it would be like 5 or 7 minutes of interview, but
Yeah.
we couldn't stop talking. It was
And we could have kept going, but we didn't want the podcast to be 2.5 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
So just Catherine, it's amazing. Thanks so much. And now we have our little samples of teas.
Well, as you've seen by now, I've smelled and anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's great.
It's really great. So we'll look forward to enjoying a couple cups.
Yeah, and
of
it's
tea.
so wonderful to discover another local product. And PEI is just the best place on earth for that. I love it so much. And we didn't know, there's a chocolate and praline maker at the market.
Yeah.
And, we just really don't get off the farm very much, but. Yeah. You can never get enough of discovering great new local products. And we're really, really, really fortunate to have access to all this stuff here. It's amazing.
Yeah. And people with such a collaborative spirit. So we're going to actually be selling Lady Baker's teas in our shop over the summer.
You bet we will. Yeah. So exciting.
Yeah, very good. So now we're moving right along.
Yes, because I think it's gonna be a really long episode.
Yeah. So we have Ask Us Anything, our thread on Ravelry, and we actually missed 2 questions. I'm not sure how that happened, so we're going to kind of go back. These poor people thought we'd forgotten about them, but Joanne from Smiths Falls, Ontario, wanted to know if there's other sock patterns that we have that are suitable for our sock yarn.
And the truth is, based on our discussion about grist of yarn, well, there are none that we have tested that we could point to just yet. However, if there are knitwear designers out there that would like to design another sock, because we do have the Kate Atherley one that I just did.
Right.
And the truth is that you will no doubt struggle, again, getting gauge in a superwash sock designed knitting pattern.
Yeah.
It won't work.
Unless the pattern is designed for wool, like a untreated wool.
It would have to be, but the problem is everybody is using superwash nylon blends for their sock patterns now.
Yeah.
But you know what? We'll take a look around. And I do have a sock pattern somewhere that's for any gauge, and it shows you how to adapt. So I'll find that one and I'll put it in the show notes.
Right.
But the truth is, we only have the one that was specifically designed with our yarn, and we would love to have more.
Yeah.
And I'm actually probably going to release a sock design at some point. But it is tricky. It's tricky because if it's a superwash nylon blend pattern, you will struggle with gauge. And I think in a sweater with various sizes, that's one thing. Mm-hmm. But sock patterns, a lot of them only come in one size, not Kate's. I think Kate has 6 sizes in hers because it's Kate.
Yeah.
And she's the sock queen. Yeah. And she understands that not all feet are created equal.
Right.
And as someone who has very skinny feet, I was very thankful to have the option of going down a size in my sock pattern. But, and certainly Kate's book, Custom Socks, would really help if you wanted to get that and learn about adapting socks. Because I think it's a good thing to do, because if they're falling down around your ankles, that's not enjoyable either. No. And everybody's feet are really different.
Yeah. There is also a really, really great sock class on Blueprint. And the instructor in that class is Ann Budd, and she gives you all of the materials and everything. She does every type of sock that you can imagine, toe up, cuff down, different kinds of heels and everything. And you actually follow her instructions, and you get a pattern that you're able to knit any kind of sock you want, and in any kind of yarn you want. So if you really want to do something that you learn things that you can use for any kind of sock pattern at all, then I would also recommend that class, because it's really, really excellent. I've done it myself, so I can tell you it works. She gives you all the hints that you need for different
and
yarns.
they always come with good materials like resources, printables.
Yeah. And you pick out your size that you want, you do the measurements of your feet, and then she talks to you about how you want your gauge and what the fabric should be like. So it doesn't matter what kind of yarn it is, it's actually the fabric that you're getting. And it's really great.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so the next question was
from Kath613 on Ravelry.
Okay.
I'm gonna assume her name is Catherine. I'm pretty sure it's Catherine. Kathy.
She might go by
Kathy. I think it's Catherine actually. And she asked about if we have any indoor pets, and yes, we do.
Yeah.
So I have a cat and a dog.
And I have 3 dogs.
Yes.
I have a bit of a dog problem.
Yeah.
I have a schnoodle.
Yeah.
A Jack Schnussel Terrier. Which is like a Schnauzer Jack or a Schnack Russell Terrier.
Yeah.
I don't know what he is. He's a handful.
Yeah, Baxter.
And I also have a big Irish Wolfhound.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
quite the
Hannah.
the Schnack Russell Terrier is this big, and Hannah is, well, Irish Wolfhound size, 140 pound.
And I have a golden retriever mix that was a rescue that we bought, or we adopted when we were in Montreal. And I have quite an old cat who just went blind.
Right.
Yeah. So
he's learning a new way of life in the house.
He's making out okay. Yeah, he's making out okay, but he's definitely blind. And is there an unexpected, Catherine also asked if there was an unexpected problem that we had to overcome. Well, where do you want to start?
Yeah, hundreds. Every day.
Yeah.
Every day is a school day. That's one of our favorite expressions.
Yeah. But I would say that one of the biggest ones is how hard it is to find good quality hay to feed your animal if you don't grow it yourself.
And we're on an island, so transportation, it's not like you can just drive an extra hour over land. You know, you have to bring it across on a ferry or a bridge and pay a toll, and like it's not, you can't just go over to Nova Scotia where they have more and drag it over here. It wouldn't be economically feasible. So
anyway, we're lucky we have a really good hay guy.
Yeah.
So we finally, we found somebody. Yeah, we have a really great guy that we buy hay from if we need to. But he also does our agricultural contract work. So we now are producing our own forage on our land. He's producing it for us on our land. And he puts up our hay for us, and it's been such a relief to have
I mean, if you can't feed your animals, I mean, I think we've encountered more complex problems, but that was a really big investment to solve that one, to plant 26 acres of our own hay mix, to do the research. I don't know if anyone would know, but grass seed is pretty expensive. If you want to plant a 26 acre field in really good quality forage with lots of legumes, which sheep need because they're high in protein, it's thousands of dollars in seed. And it doesn't last forever. You have to replant it every few years to keep the clover and the legumes fresh. Then you need to pay someone to come cut it. You have to have a way to store it. So we don't have a giant hay barn where we can pile up this 173 bales that we got. So we had to have it wrapped as silage, or we would have had to build a warehouse basically to put it in, and then to get it out of the warehouse you need a tractor. It's no small thing.
No.
And that's what's keeping your animals alive. And sheep are very particular in that they need a very high quality hay. They're not like cows. They can't just eat ditch hay, as we call it, which is whatever dried up
lower protein.
Lower protein thatch that you got off the side of the road. They will absolutely starve to death on that.
And hay making, anyway, we can maybe talk about that more in some other episodes, but hay making is actually, it's not an easy thing to make good quality hay.
And it's not an easy thing on an island that is in a maritime weather, which is loaded with precipitation all spring. So they may have it all cut and beautifully laid out and almost dry, and downpour. Ruined.
It's very tricky.
So the weather during hay cutting season, which I guess would be typically late June, mid to late June, is so unpredictable. So you need a number of days in a row that are nice to dry the hay in the windrows before you take it up and bale it. And if it gets soaked by some random maritime weather squall, then you can just forget it. It's terrible. It's very stressful. Which is why a lot of people do make haylage or silage, which can be put up more damp. So it doesn't require the drying time that dry hay requires. But it also comes with risks of listeriosis and other bacteria that can get in because it's a fermentation process.
Through no fault of anybody's.
It's just a risk of
it's like preserving.
It's preserving. So if a little mouse comes along and chews through the silage wrap and lets bacteria in, something can grow in there, and it can affect your animals. So it's quite an ordeal. And we really,
I really thought it would be a simple thing, like grass.
Just buy the hay.
Just buy hay, but it's really a complex problem.
And we're on a limited amount of space, so we're on an island. You don't want to have to go off island for your hay. Mind you, our issues are nothing compared to those of people living in Newfoundland. So we always are so thankful, because if you're trying to buy hay in Newfoundland, I don't God help you.
And all those places that are having drought and things like that. So,
it's a big deal.
It's a big deal, but we're thankful that we have somebody reliable.
And it's a limited amount of space, and forage production is competing with potato production and other sort of larger industries that are taking place on the island, soybeans, and it all takes land. You can't do both. You can't do soybeans you can't do hay in June and then soybeans after.
Yeah.
You know, these decisions have to be made, and at the end of the day, the island is only the size that it is.
Yeah.
And it's in limited supply, so you kind of, I think most people who have sheep make their own.
Yeah.
Take responsibility for it themselves, because it's very difficult to go out and find it in the quality you
because
need
of
on
the amount
open
of
market.
protein.
Yeah,
the amount
that
of
high
protein.
protein.
That you have.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a really long, long
It's
answer.
really,
but
it's just thorough.
We're pretty passionate about it.
Oh, it's been like, we're working on it for 6 years.
Yeah.
To say the least. Okay.
Okay,
So I think we can just close up.
Yeah,
There.
we're not going to talk about a shop update because we have some things that we're working on.
Yeah.
But
We're not prepared to commit to them yet because we don't
Yeah.
know how many hours sleep we're going to get.
Exactly. So I think that's it. That was it's a little bit longer episode.
It's supposed to be a light week because we're exhausted, and it's like 3 times as much work as our usual episode. But that sounds like what we would do to ourselves.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's how we roll.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna say goodbye there.
Yeah, and we're gonna go out and bottle feed Roger.
Yeah, exactly.
Roger's probably lunch is late.
Yes, his lunch is late, so Roger's not gonna be happy with us. Okay.
Okay. Bye everyone. Thanks for watching.
Bye.